everybody has a favorite weapon in Terraria. Some people like popular weapons, like the Zenith, while others like something a little more obscure, like the Bloodthorn. Whatever your preference may be, there's an unsaid rule that unites all these people. Don't be that guy. You know the one. The person who runs around dumping lava and everything. The person that throws explosives everywhere because it's funny. The person who hoards all the loot in multiplayer. You know, that guy. A lot of these destructive weapons have a bad reputation. However, if they're used to their fullest potential, they can be devastating. You know what? With all these weapons, I think I'd like to make my own class in Terraria, similar to something like the Yo-Yo subclass. I'll call it the What? Hold on. Child friendly? What do you mean? Call it whatever you want. The demolitionist class, the destructive class, the meanie head class, whatever floats your boat. So first, let's go over the criteria for what counts as a destructive item. The item must be able to permanently destroy, change, or build terrain. If it doesn't affect the world in any way, or its effects don't last long, it cannot be used. Yes, you're allowed to place blocks as that changes the world, and I guess that also applies to pickaxes. If you're a little twerp, only the best of the best will ignore pickaxes and use explosives. Speaking of which, explosives are the first and most obvious thing you'll be using on your journey to blow up everything. There are several different types of explosives, and yes, I know that all you want to do is blow everything up and don't care about how you do it, but just hold on. There are actually a ton of things to consider, such as the options you have. First are standard bombs. These deal 100 damage to any enemy or player caught in its pretty small explosion radius. It takes 3 seconds for these to blow up, so they can be pretty awkward to aim and throw, but with some practice can be a lethal weapon. Now there are a few different variants of bombs, and which one you use is left entirely up to how little you want to use your brain. Sticky bombs are made with a standard bomb and gel, and are identical to regular bombs, but they cling onto walls, ceilings, and floors. They're pretty good if you have a bit of trouble predicting where standard bombs will roll when thrown. Bomb fish are the same as sticky bombs, but can be caught by fishing and probably smell terrible. If you just don't give a crap about thinking or all that garbage, just use bounty bombs. These pretty pink bombs pounce in no particular path and proceed to pop when perpetrators piss off people. A new addition to 1.4, scarab bombs are found in the underground desert. They have a very long range and will blast a tunnel opposite from where the player is standing. Great for excavations. On the opposite side of the spectrum, dirt bombs actually place tiles and are best used for filling up holes, or for being a small prank. A much more destructive tool are liquid bombs, and depending on which variant you use, a different liquid will be generated, only for those who hate fun. Bombs aren't good enough for you? Ah, picky aren't we? Well, try dynamite on for size. Dynamite has a massive explosion radius that deals a ridiculous 250 damage, outclassing some of the most powerful weapons in the game. It is the go-to choice for speedrunners as they are easy to amass and make a joke out of bosses like the Wall of Flesh. Dynamite also has a few variants, being sticky dynamite and bouncy dynamite, and they behave identically to their bomb counterparts. What? Still not enough for you? Fine. Wired explosives should do the trick. Made with dynamite or found in the caves, explosive traps pack even more of a punch than dynamite, and they have the potential to instantly kill even the hardiest of players. The only real catch is that they need to be wired up in order to work, making them nearly impossible to use until you beat Skeletron and rescue the mechanic. Are you serious? Are you still not satisfied? Well, there is one more explosive item, but its name is spoken only in whispered tones. This legendary artifact is so rare that you can't even obtain it in most versions of the game. I bring you the Holy Hand Grenade. Yeah, were you expecting more? Nope. Moving on. Surprisingly, there are more of these destructive weapons than just explosives. Now what can be better than those? Sand. No, I'm not kidding. Either because Relogic said so, or some other block game started the trend. Sand, silt, and slush will all fall if it doesn't have a tile to support it. While falling, it'll deal damage and knockback to anything caught in its path, and when it reaches the ground, the sand will be placed. You can place sand tiles at a pretty rapid rate too, meaning that anything under you is going to be a world of sand, hurt. However, who wants to play sand these days? We live in an age of smartphones and self-driving cars. Why would anyone want to dump sand anywhere with our hands? What are we, Neanderthals? Well, thanks to recent advances in sand technology, there is a gun that can do all that for you. Introducing the Sand Gun. With this new and improved model, you can launch sand further than ever before, damaging enemies at any range and making a mess while you're at it. Impress your friends with your newfound ability to be a server-wide annoyance. But wait, there's more! If you purchase our premium offer, you will get 3 special types of sand that pierce enemies and keep going. I mean, look at this. You're just bullying the poor worm at this point. With 6 easy payments of $39. Okay, I'll stop. Another type of weapon you can use doesn't really have a good name, so I'll be calling them Thrown Water. These weapons were introduced back in the 1.1 update, and honestly, it's no surprise that almost nobody uses them. When you toss these, any terrain they land on will be converted into corruption, hollow, or crimson, depending on which variant you use, and most people don't really want to do that. You could make the argument for wanting to spread the hollow, but the corruption and crimson only makes things less habitable and more dangerous for you. Anyway, upon impacting an enemy, they will deal 20 damage and aren't affected by any damage bonuses. In order to make them, you need bottled water, biome respective seeds, pixie dust for the hollowed one, and sand for the other 2. Why does it always come back to sand? If you wanted to use these, it would probably be best to use them over some terrain or tile that cannot be converted, or just fight in the Thrown Water's respective environment. There's only one melee weapon on this list, and it's because it technically falls into the criteria of being a destructive weapon, and that's the Staff of Regrowth. You can find it in the underground jungle, and okay, it doesn't make that good of a weapon. You can swing it and it does damage, but its main function is to increase the amount of reagents and seeds you get from harvesting plants, so it's more of a tool than a weapon. What puts it on the list then? Well, hear me out. It can grow grass on dirt. Please try to contain your excitement. I guess it can make a good weapon early game for when you don't have too many explosives to work with, or just don't want to risk blowing your house up every time a slime comes inside. Other than that, yeah, not too impressive. Well, at least the next weapons on this list bring back that fire and brimstone you all so desperately want. So I'm just gonna get right to the point. Rocket launchers are awesome. There are a ton of different rockets you can use to mess up the world around you and cause mass destruction. Real quick thing to point out, not all launchers inherit the properties of these rockets. Here's a list of them that do, and therefore, the only ones you can use. Anyway, Rocket 2s and Rocket 4s are purchased from the Cyborg NPC during blood moons and solar eclipses respectively. These rocket variants will destroy tiles when they impact the surface or an enemy, making them great for excavations, or if you're just some twisted gremlin with no respect for the earth. Now these things are already pretty crazy, but it doesn't end there. If you just want to flood the world with the liquid of your choice, then liquid rockets are for you. You could choose to drown the earth in either water, honey, or lava. There's also another variant, being the dry rocket, and instead it removes liquids. They are the go-to choice for getting water out of areas quickly and oh. No, you can't make me! Cluster Rocket 2s are up next, and you can buy them from the Cyborg during a blood moon or a solar eclipse once the Martian invasion has been defeated. These rockets have a smaller blast radius than regular 2s and 4s, but explode into shrapnel when impacting something, and these shards of metal also explode and break tiles at impact, leading to a chain of destruction where everything dies! Fire, ash, the whole package. However, what if you don't care about these gimmicks and just want to destroy the very world you may or may not hold dear? Well, the mini nuke is for you. They are made using 100 Rocket 4s and a bar of shroomite, and have a massive area of effect and will decimate anything unfortunate enough to be caught in its explosion. Alright, the video is almost over, so before I go over the final weapon, I would like to quickly review a few items that I personally didn't see fit for the class, but you can use if you feel like they fit the criteria for a destructive weapon. There's the Ice Rod, which is a pretty decent magic weapon that places tiles in the air, but these tiles only last about 15 seconds, so any havoc that this weapon causes is easily reversible. Next is the Contaminator and Powders. These items convert parts of your world into a new environment, but don't do any damage, meaning that they don't make, well, I was gonna say great weapons, but they're not weapons at all, so actually, yeah. Traps and boulders can also be seen as destructive weapons, as you need to place or break things in order to make them work, but you're only really interacting with the trap itself rather than the world, so I felt like they didn't really count. For a similar reason, that's why I excluded placeable weapons like cannons or the snowball launcher from the list. If you find an item that you believe should be part of the class, go ahead and use it. Nobody's stopping you from playing the game how you'd like. Now you may think this is the logical endpoint for destructive weapons. I mean, we've talked about explosives, staves, an unhealthy amount of sand, and literal miniature warheads. What can top that? Well, there is one thing. Often overlooked by many players, this item has the ability to raise cities and the capacity to make continents tremble with the sheer amount of power it harnesses. When in the palm of your hand, you become the god of earth, and all shall fall to raw primordial fury. This item is the Dirt Rod. Thank you, and good night.